The Slender Man is a fictional character that originated as an internet meme created by Something Awful forums user Eric Knudsen in 2009. It is depicted as resembling a thin, unnaturally tall man with a blank and usually featureless face, wearing a black suit. Stories of the Slender Man commonly feature him stalking, abducting, or traumatizing people, particularly children. The Slender Man is not confined to a single narrative, but appears in many disparate works of fiction, mostly composed online. Origin: The Slender Man was created on a thread in the Something Awful internet forum begun on June 8, 2009, with the goal of editing photographs to contain supernatural entities. On June 10, a forum poster with the username Victor Surge contributed 2 black and white images of groups of children, to which he added a tall, thin spectral figure wearing a black suit. Previous entries had consisted solely of photographs. However, Surge supplemented his submission with snatches of text, supposedly from witnesses, describing the abductions of the groups of children, and giving the character the name, the Slender Man. The quote under the first photograph read, "We didn't want to go, we didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time. a.a. 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead." The quote under the second photograph read, "One of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze. Notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as a the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. a.a. 1986, photographer, Mary Thomas, missing since June 13, 1986. These additions effectively transformed the photographs into a work of fiction. Subsequent posters expanded upon the character, adding their own visual or textual contributions. In an interview with the website Know Your Meme, Victor Surge claimed that he was inspired to create the Slender Man by Legends of the Shadow People, the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, Zach Parsons, and Stephen King, and the surrealism of William S. Burroughs. His intention was, he claimed, to formulate something whose motivations can barely be comprehended, and which triggered unease and terror in a general population. Development: The Slender Man soon went viral, spawning numerous works of fan art, cosplay and online fiction known as creepypasta, scary stories told in short snatches of easily copyable text that spread from site to site. Divorced from its original creator, The Slender Man became the subject of myriad stories by multiple authors within an overarching mythos. The first video series involving the Slender Man evolved from a post on the Something Awful thread by user Sagars. It tells of a fictional film school friend named Alex Crowley, who had stumbled upon something troubling while shooting his first feature-length project, Marble Hornets. The video series, published in found footage style on YouTube, forms an alternate reality game describing the filmer's fictional experiences with the Slender Man. The ARG also incorporates a Twitter feed and an alternate YouTube channel created by a user named Totark. Marble Hornets is now one of the most popular Slender Man creations, with over 250,000 followers around the world, and 55 million views. Other Slender Man-themed YouTube serials followed, including Everyman Hybrid and Tribe 12. In 2011, Marcus Notch Persson, creator of the sandbox indie game Minecraft, added a new hostile mob to the game, which he named the Enderman, when multiple users on Reddit and Google+ commented on the similarity to the Slender Man. In 2012, the Slender Man was adapted into a video game titled Slender, The 8 Pages. As of August 2012, the game has been downloaded over 2 million times. Several popular variants of the game followed, including Slenderman's Shadow and Slender Man for iOS, which became the second most popular app download. The sequel to Slender, The 8 Pages, Slender, The Arrival, was released in 2013. Several independent films about the Slender Man have been released or are in development, including Entity and the Slender Man, released free online after a $10,000 Kickstarter campaign. In 2013, it was announced that Marble Hornets would become a theatrical film. Description: because the Slender Man's fictional mythology has evolved without an official canon for reference, his appearance, motives, habits and abilities are not fixed, but change depending on the storyteller. He is most commonly described as very tall and thin with unnaturally long, tentacle-like arms, which he can extend to intimidate or capture prey. He has a white, featureless head and appears to be wearing a dark suit and tie. The Slender Man is associated with the forest and has the ability to teleport. Proximity to the Slender Man is often said to trigger a slender sickness. A rapid onset of paranoia, nightmares and delusions accompanied by nosebleeds. Reaction: the success of the Slender Man legend has been ascribed to the chaotic, ambiguous nature of the Internet. While nearly everyone involved understands on some level that the Slender Man is not real, the Internet offers up a mess of conflicting perspectives, blurring the boundary between fiction and reality and obscuring the character's origin, thus lending it an air of authenticity. Only 5 months after his creation, callers into George Norrie's Coast to Coast AM, a radio call-in show devoted to the paranormal and conspiracy theories, began receiving callers asking about the Slender Man. 2 years later, an article in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune described his origins as difficult to pinpoint. Eric Knudsen has commented that many people, despite understanding that the Slender Man was created on the Something Awful forums, still entertain the possibility that he might be real. Professor Tom Pettit of the University of Southern Denmark has described the Slender Man as being an exemplar of the modern age's closing of the Gutenberg parenthesis. The time period from the invention of the printing press to the spread of the web in which stories and information were codified in discrete media, to a return to the older, more primal forms of storytelling, exemplified by oral tradition and campfire tales, in which the same story can be retold, reinterpreted and recast by different tellers, expanding and evolving with time. Professor Shira Chess of the University of Georgia has noted that the Slender Man exemplifies the similarities between traditional folklore and the open-source ethos of the Internet, and that, unlike those of traditional monsters such as vampires and werewolves, the Slender Man's mythos can be tracked and signposted, giving a powerful insight into how myth and folklore form. She describes the Slender Man as a metaphor for helplessness, power differentials, and anonymous forces. Similarly, T.Y.E. Van Horn, a writer for The Elm, has suggested that the Slender Man represents modern fear of the unknown. In an age flooded with information, people have become so inured to ignorance that they now fear what they cannot understand. Troy Wagner, the creator of Marble Hornets, ascribes the terror of the Slender Man to its malleability. People can shape it into whatever frightens them most. Copyright: despite his folkloric qualities, the Slender Man is not in the public domain. Eric Victor Serge Knudsen registered a copyright on the name Slender Man in January 2010. Several profit-making ventures involving the Slender Man have unequivocally acknowledged Knudsen as the creator of this fictional character, and several more have been legally blocked from distribution after legal complaints from Knudsen and other sources. Though Knudsen himself has given his personal blessing to a number of Slender Man-related projects, it is complicated by the fact that, while he is the character's creator, a third party holds the options to any adaptations into other media, including film and television. The identity of this option holder has not been made public. Knudsen himself has argued that his enforcement of copyright has less to do with money than with artistic integrity. "I just want something amazing to come off it. Something that's scary and disturbing and kinda different. I would hate for something to come out and just be kinda conventional." Alleged inspired attacks. On May 31, 2014, two 12-year-old girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, allegedly held down and stabbed a 12-year-old classmate 19 times. When questioned later by authorities, they reportedly claimed that they wished to commit a murder as a first step to becoming proxies of the Slender Man, having read about it online. One of the girls said Slender Man watches her, can read minds, and teleport. Due to the intervention of a passing cyclist, the victim survived the attack. The attackers were charged as adults and are each facing up to 65 years in prison. In a statement to the media, Eric Knudsen said, I am deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act. He stated he would not be giving interviews on the matter. After hearing the story, an unidentified woman from Hamilton, Ohio told a WLWT-TV reporter her 13-year-old daughter had attacked her with a knife, and had written macabre fiction, some involving the Slender Man, whom the mother said motivated the attack. See also, Urban Legend, Folklore, Bogeyman, Kunekune, Men in Black, References. External links: The Something Awful forum thread in which the Slender Man was created, Eric Knudsen's DeviantArt gallery, containing all his Slender Man images.